Hey, welcome back to my channel. I just might be able to do a whip and chat every day, and since I just finished this book, Love People Use Things, I thought I would talk a little bit about the remaining chapters in this book while I work on the Durene Jones Sleepy Cats, or Sleeping Laundry Cat. And I am going to be working down here, but I just want to fill in that little square right there. So the first thing I need is 745, so let's find it. My floss over here. I don't have, like when I did my previous video, I had my floss ready, but it's not ready for this video. So let's find 745. That is a yellowish color. 744, so this is going to be, give me a second, I have 725 and 744, but I don't have 745 in front of me. We will find it. Let me see, could it possibly not be in here? Did I use it for a different project? We will soon find out. If I don't find it in a couple of seconds, I will have to restart this video. 745, and double checking. These are my greens right here, so it wouldn't be here. It's a yellow. I may have to go into my stash because we are not turning up number 745. Here we go. I found it, 745. Forgive me for that. I'm not going to restart the video. I just beg your patience. So, I went ahead and finished this book, Love People Use Things Because the Opposite Never Works, by Joshua Fields Millburn and Ryan Nicodemus. When I made my last whip and chat, I had read chapters for Stuff, Truth, and Self, and I was starting on values. So the last 4 chapters in this book are values, money, or relationships. The relationship 1 is stuff, relationship 2 is truth, relationship 3 is self, and then relationship 4 is values, relationship 5 is money, relationship 6 is creativity, and relationship 7 is people. I gleaned the most from people, the last relationship explored in this book. Of course, all the chapters were instrumental for helping me to better understand myself because, like I mentioned in my other video, I thought that this book would be about minimalism since, okay, this needle is broken. We'll get another needle. This book is by 2 gentlemen who are widely known as the Minimalists, so I thought this book was going to focus on minimalism, so I chose not to read it. But at the same time, when I was going through my bookshelf and saw all of these books by publishers that I had not yet read, I felt like I really needed to go ahead and get this book read. So this is the 3rd book of the nonfiction titles that I wanted to read. And now, by the way, what I'm doing here is I'm going to secure my floss from, oh, this is a full thing. I thought this was a broken strand. Okay, ignore what I was just about to say. So this is the 3rd one down. So let's see if I can turn the light on without drowning out this video. Let's see. Yeah, I think you can see good. I think you can see well enough. Okay, so I went through my bookshelf looking through all of the ARCs that I have been sent by publishers, and we're talking 150, 200 books. And of those books, I think 7, 8, or 9 of them were nonfiction. So the first 2 I read was the Book of Hope by Robin, you're losing it, Jane Goodall, and the Book of Moods by Lauren Martin. And I talked about those books in a previous video. And then the 3rd book I chose was the Love People Use Things book. And the only reason I can never find the hole when I'm making a video is because I'm not right in front of my work. I have to get used to seeing my canvas through the eyes of the camera so I can make effective videos. So just forgive that slowness to stitching that hole. So anyway, I started reading this book and I realized that it's a lot more about people than it is about things. It's a lot more about situations than it is about minimalism. And so I really, really gained a lot in this book. As a matter of fact, when I got to the chapter that's the relationship, how did I put this? Let me get back to that. The relationship 7 people, I listened to it 2 or 3 times, 2 full times, and then the second half 3 times, because I really wanted to cement those thoughts into my head, because they share an interesting fact very early on in the book. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share that fact with you. I should be able to find it relatively quickly. Just give me a second. It's about memory. Now, I tend to have what I call an eidetic memory because I remember a lot what I read. But notice what this says. We remember 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see, 50% of what we see and hear, 70% of what we discuss with others, 80% of what we personally experience, and 95% of what we teach with others. I love those statistics, and I probably will screenshot that page and stick it up on my wall in my office. It's a very, very good analysis of how the memory works. So I decided to listen to the chapter about people more than once, because I have it as okay, why can't we get the stitch in? Because we pulled the floss out. I have it as a print arc, but because the book is already released, I checked my library and I was able to get it as an audiobook. So I was reading it, and listening to it and going through the paperback, the print book. So when I listened to this and I got to people, I realized that there was a key to my situation that I was missing, and that key is closure. So this book talked about relationships, values, and boundaries. And with talking about those things, it eventually segued into closure. And that was the missing key. That was something that I did not recognize in myself that I was seeking. So I kept trying to find ways, whether it was intentionally by talking about it here on my videos, talking to my close friends, using the power of prayer. I was trying to fix a friendship that is not deemed to be repaired. So later on in the chapter on people, it talks about closure. And I don't know why I didn't realize that that was the missing key. And that's why I chose to listen to that chapter more than once. So, one of the things that I want to talk about is on page, I think, 266, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 267. So, in this chapter on page 267, it's how to be yourself. Now, I have to take responsibility for my life choices and also the consequences that I deal with. And this could be on any level, in any relationship, friends, family, what have you, business, school, work. It's taking responsibility for the relationships that you cultivate and what you get out of that relationship. And so in my regard, I have to take responsibility for my situation and stop ruminating over what if, I wish I, oh my goodness, why didn't I, that's unhealthy, and I just cannot get this thread to come through together at the same time. It's so weird. And I pulled it off of my needle again, and then this time I dropped my needle. Boy, I am 2 for 2, or 0 for 2. So, in this How to Be Yourself section on page 267, it's talking about, of course I want empowering people in my life, but how do I know if whether a relationship is good or bad, supportive or toxic, growing or dying? And I know I've talked about a former friend in previous videos, and that friend has talked about me in her videos. But I did not know the relationship was dying. And what I want to do with my life is to have good, powerful, positive relationships going forward. So I thought some of these things were interesting. You probably already know if things aren't going well. We get cues. We get answers. You know, we may have rose-colored glasses on, but the cues are there. So you probably already know if things are going down. Maybe just refusing to see them. Or if you're wondering whether a relationship is toxic, it probably is. I personally did not feel that the relationship was toxic, but it doesn't mean that the other party did not feel that way. And I respect that. And I want to apologize for trying to press something that wasn't meant to be fixed. A relationship is toxic when it is harmful or unpleasant in a pervasive or insidious way. That's food for thought. Does the relationship constantly make you feel sad, agitated, or upset? Do you go away from a situation and ruminate over emotions that were raised in you that weren't healthy? Now, this is talking about ending a relationship, walking away from a relationship, leaving on peaceful terms, or finding yourself in a situation where a relationship came to a sudden halt. These are questions we can think about. Do you feel anxious, angry, or scared, guilt-ridden, chastened, regretful? If you feel any of those things, there's a good chance it's toxic. But if a relationship is truly outstanding, you don't wonder any of those things at all. You're not left to feel that way. And like, I have a very good friend, and I never feel any of these feelings when I talk to her. So I love that. And then the book talked about boundaries and communication. Now, when it comes to boundaries and communication in relationships, this is something that my therapist has been helping me with for about a year now. So it has nothing to do with the current climate that I found myself in. And we talk about moats. He wanted me, 1, 2, 3, feels like 1, 2, 3. Feels like this square is too tall. Okay, that's there. And then we're going to skip 3 squares. 1, 2, 3. I may have to redo part of this. Let me see something. It could be because I'm looking through my magnifier and it just seems bigger. 1, 2. Yeah, the magnifier just makes it look that much bigger, so I'm okay. So anyway, for about a year now, my therapist and I have been talking about boundaries. And he came up with the illustration of a moat around a castle. Now, I wanted to read the definition of moat. Most people would know what it is, but we're going to read it anyway. My iPad would bring it up. Okay, a moat is a deep, broad ditch, either dry or filled with water, that is dug and surrounds a castle, fortification, building, or town, historically to provide it with a preliminary line of defense. In some places, moats have evolved into more extensive water defenses, including natural and artificial lakes, dams, and sluices. So I've got Chuck Pinson blocking it, but above, because the Chuck Pinson came off the wall and I have to rehang it, you see this Amy Stewart castle? And there's a moat around that castle. And if you can see that blue, there's water between the rims of the moat and the door to the castle. It's a good line of defense. Well, when my therapist and I were talking about establishing a moat in my life when it comes to boundaries, I was working on this puzzle. Coincident. It was a coincidence, but I was working on that puzzle. So I said, Mark, I have a castle, and the castle has a puzzle with a castle, and the castle has a moat. So sometimes if I'm having relationship issues, Mark will say, look at that puzzle on the wall and look at that moat and remember boundaries. So the book itself, I just closed the page. Let me reopen it. The book itself talks about boundaries. Right after it talked about toxic relationships, so it talks about boundaries and communication. And of course, my therapist is educated, so some of the illustrations and situations he talks to me about come from either his education or his work with other clients. So we talk a lot about boundaries, and boundaries I think are important in any relationship: family, friends, worker, co-worker, employee, employer, teacher, student. We have to have boundaries. So this book here talked a lot about boundaries, and I thought it was very, very, very helpful to kind of get a review on boundaries, because I needed that, because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I am after closure. I need closure for my particular situation. And I did not realize that it was closure that I needed until I read this book. I really, really did not realize that. As a matter of fact, I listened to this chapter, as I mentioned, more than one time, because it was like a light bulb. And sometimes we need reminders, and we want to be healthy people. We want to be healthy mentally and emotionally. We want to be healthy physically, and we want to be healthy spiritually. But if you blur the lines of boundaries between loyalty and friendship, and you have relationships that are not thriving, it can put you into a very unhealthy space. And that's the space that I was in. And I'm not going to blame anybody, no particular person, even the situation where I felt like I didn't get closure. I'm not going to look for closure anymore, because it may never be found. But at least now I realize that my value system has to impact or be impacted. Boy, this is so bright you can't even see my stitches going down. Can you see? It's a combination of it being bright and I'm using yellow and whites. But as soon as I switch colors, you'll be able to see me a little bit more. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the book, and it made me think about this Amy Stewart Castle and using appropriate boundaries in my relationships with others. And a lot of the things that I'm thinking about when I read this book is going forward, because you can't go back. Hindsight is 20/20. You go back. If we all could fix our mistakes, we'd be pretty happy people, wouldn't we? But we can't. We can't go back. Once something happens, in most cases, it may not be able to be rectified. There are times when people forgive each other and they bury the past and they bury the sad feelings and they do move on. But in a lot of cases, things don't get resolved. Let me just mark these stitches on Pattern Keeper. Give me 1 second. I have Pattern Keeper right to my right. And so I just want to mark them and then see what the next color is before I decide what to do with this floss, if I'm going to bury it or if I'm going to... Okay, so since I'm still going to use another yellow, I'm just going to bury my floss. So I'm not going to flip my canvas over. So we're just going to say cut that much off, and I won't clean that up. I'll clean that up later. So it looks like I need 744, and I know exactly where it is because I was looking for 745 earlier. So closure, not going to happen. Forgiveness, yes. I forgive the situation. I won't say the person But I'll forgive the situation because things happened the way they did. And everybody has to find their own peace. And I just need to accept. Oh, that's the other thing. Speaking of the word accept, I know where I was going. I got distracted when I was changing color. There's an acronym that this book uses, and it's Terra. And there's 4 stages of understanding. And these are tolerance, acceptance, respect, and appreciation. Okay, so let's go over those again. Tolerance, acceptance, respect, and appreciation. So with all of that, I have to respect the boundaries that other people have set in their lives to remove me because they feel that I'm toxic. I have to accept that I have some personality faults that really need work. You know, my bullheadedness, my overexuberance, my, I guess, know-it-all spirit that displays itself. But guess what? I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, whether I make mistakes in judgment or decisions or actions or words. I make mistakes, but I cannot allow those mistakes to ruin me to the point where I lose my will to live again. I just have to accept that I made a lot of mistakes. Those mistakes apparently affected other people. There were things about the other people that, how can I put this? I guess made other people feel unsafe. Okay, I'm just trying to knot this in the front. And all I can do is to try to remember those 4 words: tolerance, acceptance, respect, and appreciation. And what I'm going to take away from that is I'm going to appreciate the very dear friend I have, the one that needs all of our prayers, all of our good thoughts, and all of our well wishes. But I also want to pray for others. You know, I want to pray for those in the Ukraine with the way they are being attacked by Russia. And not just the military, but those poor civilian lives that are being lost. I want to pray for people like me who lose family members suddenly. My sister-in-law Jill passed away. Just one minute she was talking to my brother, the next minute she fell over and she stopped breathing. And, you know, so I want to appreciate the things that I have in life that bring me joy, but I also want to find ways to deal with pain. And whether it's my pain that I trigger on my own due to my stupidity or stubbornness or boldness, or I inadvertently commit sins. Now, I say inadvertently commit sins because I don't have a mean bone in my body, no matter what someone says or thinks or tells other people. What do I mean by that? What I mean simply is I don't wake up thinking of, oh, how can I upset person A or person B? No, I love people. I am a people person. Lori Foster, I think in one of her tweets asked today, are we a hugger or what kind of person? Even in this book, the authors, Ryan and the other author, asked if you are somebody who will meet somebody new with a handshake, a hug, or a glance. I'm the hugger type. If social media wasn't so important in the world that we live in, and a lot of us had really interpersonal relationships with people that we see in our everyday walk of life, I would be the person that would see you and give you a great big hug. That's always been who I am, a big hugger, a very emotional person. So I never set out to hurt anybody or to make anybody feel unsafe or unwelcome. And I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry for anybody that felt that way when they were around me. You know, I'm not going to seek answers anymore. I'm not going to seek closure unless the closure that I achieve is inner peace. Maybe that's the aspect of closure. I think I pulled my thread off my needle. We'll find out in 1 second. No. It's It's not there. Yeah, I felt like I pulled it out. So my stitching on camera leaves a lot to be desired. I have to get used to not being close to my project when I am using the camera, so my thread is knotted. I just want to carefully pull it out so I don't break it. So I do apologize for anybody that I hurt in the process, and all I can do is to try to move on, and I hope everybody finds peace, and I hope that I find peace, and that's all I can do. I can't fix what's broken. I can't change the past. I can't, like I said, hindsight is 20/20. I can't go back and change things, and I really can't go back and change myself, because you know, when you have strong people with strong personalities, and you have 2 people or 3 people or 5 people or whatever have you, you know, you have some personality clashes. And we're dealing with, I have messed up this floss. Why? Let me flip this over. Let's see what the story is. What is the story here? Can I see this? Personality clashes are going to occur, and then when you have the fact that we're doing everything via social media versus doing anything in real life, these clashes just get more and more intense. And it looks like I got a little bit of a knot right here. You can't really see it. It's down there, and it's impeding me from proceeding with this floss. So all I'm going to do is clip it and restart that area, rather than to try to fix it. So let's clip these off. So I learned, and you know, the funny thing is nonfiction is probably my least favorite genre. Of all the genres that I love, like mystery, romance, cozy mysteries, Christian mysteries, Christian, you know, Amish fiction, I don't read nonfiction. And if it weren't for my son commenting on the disarray of my bookshelves, I might not have grabbed all of these nonfiction books. And lo and behold, the first 3 that I read are tools that I can use to help myself to heal and to have flourishing relationships going forward. So thanks, TJ, for commenting on the terrible appearance of my bookshelf, because you ended up helping me to read books that I just had let sit there. So that's a blessing. So all I can say to bring this to a close before I start my next book, I didn't get many stitches in, but then again, like I said, when I'm stitching on camera, my project, you can't see it, is not close to me, and so therefore I can't see what I'm doing. But I am going to work on my spacing so that my next whip and chat will be done in such a way that I'm not going to try to put the stitch in. I am going to work on my spacing. When I say spacing, I mean the magnifier, the project, the app. I'll work on that so that I can see a little bit better for my next video. So thank you very much for your time. I will be back with more tomorrow. And again, let me close this by saying I apologize for anybody that I hurt. If you don't like the content on this channel, then please forgive me, but it's going to be what it is, what I feel comfortable talking about. And I will be back with more. And the next 2 books that I have lined up, just to let you know more in my nonfiction, is the 30 Life Crisis by Lisa Schwartz, Navigating My 30s, One Drunk Baby Shower at a Time. This ought to be interesting because I'm twice her age. And then this one, which is the one I'm going to start in a few minutes, is The Black Agenda, and the author's name is Anna Gifty Opoku Agiman. And this is Bold Solutions for a Broken System. So this is the one that's coming up, and then I'll read this one. So that'll be it for now, but I want to thank you for your time, and I will be back with more content tomorrow. And like I said, I'm going to work on the spacing issue so that I can see what I'm doing when I'm actually stitching. All right, love everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.